This podcast is brought to you by Kiwi Design, the leader in MetaQuest and VR accessories. And now you can deck out your device while supporting the podcast. The MetaQuest 2 is a great headset, but do you ever feel things could be a bit more comfortable? Well, we have the solution for you. With lens protectors, controller grips, face covers, head straps, link cables, headset stands, and more, including my two personal favorites, the top version controller grips with added weight and an extended handle, and the Kiwi upgraded Elite strap. Let's be real, we've all whacked our controller. Don't be the guy messaging Oculus support for your own mistake or waiting weeks for an out-of-stock controller. Visit the link in our show notes to prepare yourself today. After visiting the link in our show notes, make sure to use the promo code Ruff Talk VR at checkout, all one word, to take full advantage of your savings. And make sure to click the link in our show notes so the podcast gets credit and you help support us. Remember, whatever you need, Kiwi has you covered. Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we're joined with...
I'm excited, dude.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this. This was an App Lab game we loved. Gods of Gravity. We're joined with Steve, Nathan, and Jack, some of the developers over at Trass Games, the developers of Gods of Gravity. And this is a game that we caught at the very end of its App Lab life cycle. And then just this past month in January, actually moved to the official MetaQuest store. So congratulations to you guys on that for starters.
That's huge.
Yeah, when we were playing it, we were like, this game so deserves to be on the official Quest store. Mm-hmm. And then I go to your social media and hey,
well, and behold, it is.
It is. So, thank you guys for joining us today. But do you mind to tell our listeners a little bit more about who you guys are and also your game, Gods of Gravity, in case they've never, played
Listen
it
to the review
or any of that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you haven't listened to the review, you should do it. It was a great review, and we were very happy to hear it. I'm Jack from the development team. Nathan and Steve, why don't you just briefly introduce yourselves, and I can give a description of the game.
Yeah, I'm Nathan, another one of the developers. And also, that's basically it. No, I also do sound and programming and stuff.
Yep, and I'm Steve, and I think we all wear many hats for sure, but Jack and Nathan take the brunt of the programming, so that helps us out.
Yeah, but Gods of Gravity, for those who haven't heard of it, it's a social multiplayer RTS game, which is real-time strategy, where you play as celestial gods, and so your goal in a match is to conquer the solar system and capture the enemy home base. You're fighting against other gods. You have ships that you can grab up with your powers of gravity and toss them at other planets to take them over and expand your territory and ultimately wipe out all your enemies and emerge victorious. And yeah.
You make it sound so simple.
Yeah, until you play it on insane mode against the AI or you play some of those later stage campaign.
Play some humans that are really, really, really good at gorilla tag.
Yeah.
Can whip across that map like crazy. Yeah. What was the since our involvement in playing it was like
pretty polished game at that point.
Yeah, it was what was the concept, like when did this all really start and get put together, and then somehow you guys, have you been friends your whole life and are like, we're building a game? I mean, there's always a backstory to a game here.
Yeah, Nathan, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, so Jack and I, as you mentioned, we met in high school. That was when we first started making games together, and we had been making games for quite some time before we started working on this one. But right before Gods of Gravity started, which was around the tail end of 2020, we were just getting started in VR, and we were trying to think of a game that we thought would really make us stand out from the rest of the VR pack. And we thought that there were two things that really, made for like VR games that you could keep coming back to. One of them was like social aspects, being able to see other players. So we were trying to think of an idea that would encourage people to kind of like not just play the game, but also make friends and such. And the other thing was seeing that, a lot of the social games out there were mostly just like kind of like, speed-based or sport-based things where you're just sort of running around. And we thought that there's a lot of room for maybe other genres of social games. And so trying to come up with like, you can probably see, there's strategy in our game. We thought that made us stand out. And we think that that's...
but so, let's also like, Nathan and I back in that time, we just love making games. I mean, we still love making games, and we definitely weren't doing it professionally at that point. And we just loved making games that we would play in the cafeteria and, compete with each other. And we'd add whatever we thought was fun.
That's a
And
fair
we'd
point.
gotten in VR, our first VR game. I got the Vive back in, it was senior year of high school. And we'd already made a bunch of dumb, random other games before then. But I got the Vive and I played Super Hot. I played Job Simulator. I played Onward. I was lying on my floor at like 11 p.m. at night, you know, like crouched in a bush on Onward with the gun, like shaking down my sights, trying to, you know, aim at people. And so there was something really immersive and great about that whole VR. And then I was like, Nathan, you know, we have to build a VR game. And back in this time, we were basically like, okay, which one of our old games can we like remake as a VR game? You know, I don't know. We just like was like, okay, we got to make VR versions of all our random other games. And so our first one was we also played a lot of Little Big Planet, where you make I don't know, it's like a PS4 game, and it's little sock things you can build levels. Anyway, we had this level where there was basically a giant space worm coming after you, and you had to like navigate through an asteroid belt and avoid getting eaten by this giant space worm. And so our first VR game we based on that was called Asteroid Escape. It was just a game we played for ourselves, and I guess we presented it at our high school at a showcase. But basically, you just had grappling hooks, and you were swinging through this asteroid belt as this giant space worm came, and you could like collect bombs and try to throw it into the mouth. But anyway, Gods of Gravity came along after that, and we wanted to make another VR game. And you know, naturally, instead of like coming up with a new concept for VR, we looked at our old portfolio. We're like, okay, which one of these games could be made VR? And so we settled on this game we'd made called Flick Ship, which was just a 2D top-down turn-based thing. You had a couple different spaceships. You actually had there was a shield ship, there was a laser ship, and some other things. Yeah, and you would go take turns. It was a multiplayer game, and two people would play on the phone. You would take turns. You could either flick your ship, where you pulled back and launched it, kind of like an Angry Bird, and it moved forward, or you could like shoot, I think. And so we took that, and then we put it in VR, and then you know, from there it just evolved, and we actually realized, you know, unlike our random other remakes, oh, there's actually something here. And it just kept being unveiled, like, okay, the multiplayer is really cool to be in the same space, especially during quarantine when we were all just, I was like living in a basement at that point. So it was cool just to be in the same space as people. And from there, we just got more and more validation about the project, and it just kind of got shaped into what it is today.
So you guys were making games in high school or before high school? Like at a middle school level, you guys have been making games?
Oh, I was the king of my middle school for a while. Well, I was competing with a friend of mine. But yeah, we had both like sort of, again, I probably maybe oversold a little bit, you know, very, very amateur stuff. I mean, we were very proud of it. I think that we would, you know, even want to, you know, someday, some of those concepts I think were really fun, but you know, we had been making games just very casually for basically like 4 years straight, up until college. And then, I mean, then we were still making games, so I guess we could stop.
No, I've known, you know, Nathan for about 8 years, and we've been making games nonstop since then. And then before then, you know, we had our own hobbies of making games, but only in the last 2 years, I'd say we've really stepped it up. Instead of thinking, okay, what would make Nathan laugh, and what's a funny mechanic for us, you know, okay, like what's gonna like make for a
What's gonna
successful
make the
game?
wider community laugh? Right?
Yeah.
What's a good gameplay concept? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, instantly, when I go, well, geez, after Gods of Gravity is quote unquote done, I guess when you guys are ready to move on, you kind of allude to it. You have a huge like satchel full
Backlog
of game ideas that even if they're not ready to go yet, they're little like, you know, seedlings. They're ready to go. They just need a little bit more polish. So that's wicked exciting. And for me, I'm biased. I've always loved, you know, real-time strategy games, especially top-down. I think they work great in VR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think everything needs to be first person. I love the mechanics of dragging yourself. I love the endless strategy. We've been having so much fun doing pretty much co-op.
We've been crushing it lately.
Yeah,
I won't tout our egos here.
We've been kicking
against AI though.
Yeah, we started with playing because we've been playing on the same team, so we share troops. You know, I'll give us credit though. We got a good synchronicity at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We vibe well together. But we started against one insane AI at that point. Before that, we had gone through all the other difficulties, And we're like, all right, we beat one AI on Insane. Then we added 2. Then we got all the way to, a total of 5 teams counting us.
Mhm.
We just beat that last night. I'm like, all right, I'm a little proud of ourselves.
It's the human players that scare me worse than the AI, though.
But
The
we've
community you guys have built is doing fantastic. by the
I'll
way.
go on. I'll see 900 players online at like 11 p.m.
The
Eastern
Discord
time.
is usually popping.
Mm-hmm. So
Everyone
Yeah,
I've
for
talked
sure.
to has been really helpful.
yeah,
As
so
far as like, you want to get better at the game type of attitude, I'm like, oh,
yeah, we've had a couple of your guys' Discord members join over into our Discord, and they're nothing but helpful, if not excited to play.
oh, they want everyone playing it.
Yeah, but it's a great game. So it's like, we're biased. We love this genre of game. I've grown up playing this type of game my whole life. For me, it was a home run, but we have 3 of you guys on today. I mean, at what point did Steve come into the picture, and how big is the actual team involved in this game?
You might be looking
Yeah.
at it.
So yeah, exactly. So I was introduced pretty late. Like Jack and Nathan had already had a solid foundation. They were great developers, and as you can see, they're really excited about making games. So I was introduced right after it went on to the App Lab. So probably in December, the end of December, I was introduced, and then we started talking in January about having me come on board, and then it was finalized, and I came on board around sometime in January, I think, and that was really exciting because coming in and these two already have a shorthand, as you can tell. I mean, they've got a great back and forth. They've been friends forever. And, there can be some like nervousness about joining a team that's already established. But I will say they were amazing. And all they said, was when I came on board, the goal for me was to help get the game off the App Lab and onto the Oculus store. So my whole intent was whatever we can do as a team to do that, I am down for. So wearing as many hats as possible, helping out where I can, doing whatever it takes. And I think Jack and Nathan were awesome. And they opened up and just let me do whatever I needed to do. They asked me to do stuff. And like I said, I just do whatever needs to be done. And we have formed a really awesome core that I think is making some terrific design choices, some terrific updates. And I think we've got a really bright future.
No, I wouldn't disagree. And just the fact that you guys pulled yourself off of App Lab and are in the official store is a huge kudos. We talked to quite a few App Lab developers, and they have a great product, but for some reason, it just can't get to that next level.
No, closing that gap is a skill of
hard.
its own.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think, when you see how big of an vibrant of a community you guys have, I think that's a huge
and
box
it's only
that's
going
checked
to keep
off.
growing.
Yeah.
Come on.
900 players
Yeah.
online at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's,
Tournaments all the time.
that's not bad for Quest 2
Side
numbers.
tournaments going on. Map
It was funny
creations.
because once we launched, we before we would see maybe like 30 players or 40 would be like, oh, there's a lot of people online during the day, and then of course after it launched, we had like 1,000 players online, and we had some old players from the Discord somehow not knowing any of what is even going on, and then they're like, why are there 1,000 players online? Like, what the hell is going on?
I'm not as good as I was anymore.
I think one of the coolest things about our community is something that's always surprised me is just I feel like how much the game has grown through just word of mouth and just people being helpful, getting their friends involved. Early on the project, we really didn't it's on our App Lab. We didn't do advertising really or anything. So it was like a miracle that there was always people be playing the game. It's like, how is this possible? We're not really we didn't have a marketing budget. We're not going out here and spamming Reddit or every platform every day. So, but it was just cool to see how much the community grew over word of mouth and how strong it became. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have just a very positive community, I think, compared to a lot of other games, just because it was sort of just the community has built itself up over time, and it's just a very helpful mindset and wants to grow the game, wants the best thing for the game.
Yeah,
Well-
I think the organic growth has definitely lent itself to that, and we have a friendly, even in game when you can hear players get kind of rowdy, they're pretty excited and they're pretty friendly and helpful. So it's nice.
Well, even to that, we review this game because we have a Patreon. Which, by the way, if anybody's listening to this podcast and you want to go join our Patreon, go
Feel
join
free.
it because you can partake in cool stuff like that. We asked our Patreon subscribers, hey, pick out a game for us to review. A week or two went by and they go, Gods of Gravity.
Yeah, we
So-
want to hear it.
How did we discover it to review? Word of mouth from people, these are 2 people in our Discord. At the time, we had 2 Patreon subscribers. It's a slow build up, as you guys know. They had already played the game, so it's not like they wanted us to review it because they were curious about it. They wanted us to review it because they wanted us to discover it and spread the word of it. So I think that kind of goes right back to you said about the organic word of mouth. That's how we even found it. So that's awesome. So something I'm dying to know, because I kind of referenced it earlier, it's a skill of its own to get on the official Quest store. Steve, are you able to talk about, like, you know, what tricks you pulled out of your hat to get the game from the the App Lab to the official Quest store? Obviously, if there's things you can't talk about, that's completely understandable too, all jokes aside. But you know,
you
like,
can make a side business of getting games on the store.
Like I said, what was that process like? And is there anything, you know, fancy that you, like I said, tricks out of the hat, I'll say?
Well, I think part of the big growth was just having the community and putting a polish to the game. So we've continually added features, we've continually added stuff and polished the game, and we've just done so much. I mean, how many updates was it? 18 updates while I was on the App Lab, and they weren't small updates. Like, these were feature changing, game changing updates. So we had one tactic was to just keep growing the game, making the game look as great as possible, organically growing our community, our socials. And then, you know, Jack and Nathan made it super easy by winning an Oculus, like an Oculus Start, and they were in the Oculus Start program, and then they won an Oculus Jam. So we just kind of leveraged every possible thing we could do in the game, leverage the gameplay, leverage their history, and we just talked and made sure that everybody we talked to knew that we were trying to get off the App Lab and on the Oculus Store, and that we're continuing to grow every single month. And that was our end goal. So we were never going to be satisfied with what we were doing until we reached our goal. So it's just a lot of that self-marketing, reaching out to people. Any contact that we had, we reached out to. And yeah, Jack and Nathan's history made it super easy to just put it all into place.
Yeah, I think a key, sorry, interrupt, but a key thing here was, so we'd been in the Oculus Start program and, you know, had some history, but really what it was about was, kind of having the mindset that, you know, Oculus Meta, right? Meta isn't going to, you know, make your game sell and make your community grow. And, you know, Meta is not going to come in and do all this things for you. They're not going to like advertise for you. And this is something that we had like clarified to us when we were officially coming to the store. But it's a mindset where, you know, even if you're on App Lab, you should think, you know, not what can I do to get to the store, but what can I do to make my game successful? You know, and for us that meant, okay, like, you know, let's consider a reality where we're endlessly on the App Lab. You know, what can we do to make the game successful? Well, we can grow our community. We can start advertising on SideQuest, on Reddit. We can start doing in-app purchases even while we're on App Lab to, you know, raise money for marketing. And, you know, just think about, like, you know, what can you do to be successful? And then Meta will see your game and see that they don't even need to do anything to help your game be successful. And so you seem like a really appealing candidate for the store because they don't want to have to babysit a bunch of games and, you know, handhold developers and teach them how to do all things. They just want games to come onto the store that are run by a good team that's independent, and Meta can just sit there and effectively get money, you know, make money too, because they get a cut of your profit.
Well, we had interviewed Chris Pruitt. I always love to plug this podcast, and selfishly, I will say, you know, if you're a developer on App Lab curious about some of the stuff to get to the store, that's a great podcast episode to listen to, because Chris kind of gave us some insight, and it's kind of exactly what you had said. That was one of the things he mentioned was, you know, before they put their official Meta stamp of approval on it, they want to see that
some self-sufficiency going on.
Yeah, you don't need Meta. You know, you have updates coming. You have a community.
A plan.
You know, they were even saying that, shit, there's some games that, you know, I think their examples that they would have used are now on the official Quest store and Gym Class, but they're like, there's some games that arguably really don't need the official MetaQuest store, and due to technical requirements are better off staying on App Lab because it's not worth the effort to move them, and they're self-sufficient. So it's kind of exactly what you had said. It's like, you got to prove that.
Well, I love the mindset. I mean, the reality is you guys look wicked young. So
yeah, I was actually going to ask, how old are you guys?
It doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah, 20s or
30s? We're 21.
I was going to, yeah.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
And have you been able to go full time with this since the official store, or is it?
Luckily, both Nathan and I well, we were in college. We worked on this game for 2 years alongside classes and our computer science degrees. But we have, I mean,
A
basically,
solid 3 weeks of
um,
full-time work.
yeah, a month
We're
ago,
going
we
strong.
were able to graduate early and have begun work without distractions. I mean, we were almost working on it full time before, just but
Sometimes there'd be a final
no,
exam.
yeah.
But
I was gonna say working diligently hard in school, right?
It's
Oh,
funny
yeah.
how
Oh,
it
yeah.
works
Totally.
out though.
No, congratulations. That's awesome.
No,
You know,
but what I'm liking is like, I mean, you got a young group of people who already have it figured out. I
mhm.
mean, the mindset isn't to just, well,
woe is me. My game's not on
My
the official
game's
Quest
not
store.
doing good,
All right,
like-
what do I got to do?
no, just think of it differently.
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
I've worked with a lot of other developers, and I'll say I love working with Jack and Nathan. Just there's an energy and an excitement and an ability to build. So one of my favorite things is we'll brainstorm. We come up with an idea, and it starts with just like a nugget, and then we spitball, and it goes round and round and round, and it comes out with this polished gem. And you're just like, how are we even going to get it done? And they're like, all right, I'll have it done by Friday. And then they get it done, and you're like, holy crap! Anywhere outside of like this team, that development would have taken 6 months. So these two are insane. They just knock stuff out, and it's better than the original idea. And you can't put a price on that. Like that is an invaluable build process. It's just amazing working with these two.
Yeah, I
oh,
guess.
you can tell the energy. I could already tell the energy. And I like to use the word passion because for some reason, when people do stuff in VR, they seem to have more of a passion for
Mhm.
it.
An
than we'll
energy
say
to
in
them.
like flat screen gaming or
And I guess you getting them with the official MetaQuest store is kind of like a salesman being, salesman of the year, but having the greatest product. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy to be a good salesman when the product's so good,
yeah, you don't have to upsell
Yeah, I
it
don't
too
want to
hard.
take credit for that at all. Like it's been a team effort. And like Jack said, we had to do a lot. The updates were great. The fact that we were posting on Twitter every day, the fact that we were making weekly YouTube videos for, an audience of, a couple hundred. It was all just to show that we were going to be diligent. We weren't going to just get the game on the store and abandon it. And I think that's a key factor for Meta. They want to see people who are in the trenches. They want to see that you're actively making the game better and that you have a goal to support your game long term.
I love the answer. I mean, it's an honest answer. So I'm gonna jump off of Gods of Gravity for a second because now that I've confirmed that it's a young development team who are eager and obviously passionate and good energy, are we going to expect some future projects from your development studio? Not necessarily Gods of Gravity wise, even though we know you have other things that you could cherry pick or put together. I'm just curious if we're already in the works of something else.
Currently, we're all full-time focus. Gods of Gravity is our only focus. Though we hope that the game will be successful enough that we can eventually, develop another game and really build a studio off of Gods of Gravity. But we don't, we're not somehow. There's no time. We don't have this phantom like hidden time that we're also working on another game or anything. It's all put into Gods of Gravity right now.
No, that's awesome. And
Fair enough.
I won't lie. The first time I had played this, it's like I got maybe 20 minutes into the campaign. I was like, yeah, there's something special here. This is going to be a hit.
It's become one of the more I play it, the more I want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it when we played it, but we still play it.
Yeah.
And we continue to play it. And now we squeeze in time of like,
Should be playing
before
another game we got to review, but
that-
now we're going to do a
like,
God of
well,
Gravity.
you know what?
round.
If we take 30 minutes off of that, we can add to that tomorrow, but let's do a
Yeah.
couple of rounds. And
Mhm.
so it's like
Hand the AI a whooping for a minute.
I have
you know?
not hit a wall at all yet of like playability with it.
No, and it's funny when we had reviewed it, I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be the guy who mostly plays the game, and it's really cool that the map creator feature's there, but that's
I'm
not
not
really
going to
my-
buy it.
Now I'm like,
I bought it.
I need to make maps, so it's funny the way that the game grows on you. And like I said, the first time I played it, I was like, there's something special here. And I think that the model is good. I'd actually said when we reviewed it, you should just charge for the game because it's so freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
But props to you for how much you give to people for free. And then the full game for 15, and then for 10, right? It's been so long at this point
It's
since I bought
15
it.
right now.
15,
since we're
yeah.
not-
I think I got it on discount because I got it at the
End of
early
the
time.
Apple
Oh,
Yeah.
you got
Stage, yeah.
founders still nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, I like the name on the.
yeah, I wish I just went to the full one right away.
Yes.
And then you have the creator one for for the 30. It's a great business model, but it doesn't seem like the game was always monetized. But again, I can't say that for sure because we
didn't have it.
Yeah, so what's kind of been like the growth of this game? Like at one point, was there no monetizing, and then did it start with cosmetics? And when did the paid tiers kind of come into the picture?
Yeah, Nathan, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, you are correct. The big thing that we had heard a lot when we were first starting up the game is that, you just got to get yourself out there, right? We knew that we weren't going to be able to spend a lot of money on marketing, and so the most important thing for us, being multiplayer, was that it was free. And so yeah, when we were on App Lab, we were adding lots of features, and we had a little bit of internal discussion that like, is there any way we could be making money out of this? But for a good while, we knew that like it was definitely more like enjoyable for us to just see people excited to play it, rather than necessarily thinking about how to turn it into a career. But the longer we spent on it, the longer we knew that the people who were playing this game definitely were interested in supporting us, and it wasn't just like that we were like trying to get something out of them. Like there were a lot of people who were just like, even before we had considered it, were just like, oh, do you have like a donation fund, or do you guys have like merchandise or something? And we were just like, this game does have a lot of value, and if we're going to be able to like do this ongoing, we definitely should consider some sort of monetization. And so the first form of that was, as you heard, the founders deal, which was basically a kind of like an in-game form of donating to us. And so what we told them was basically like, you can support the game for some amount, either 10 or 30, and we'd be able to use that money to start marketing and pushing for the Quest store, since at the time we were still on App Lab and we had really no way of sort of proving that the game was like, I guess, anything more than just sort of like a free hangout space. And yeah, and then we introduced
Yeah, and I
an
want
access
to
model.
sorry, I want to clarify.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
At this point, the founders, when we launched the founders, unlike when you bought it, but when we launched it, it was just you got like some cosmetics and things in game, which was cool, but there was none of the entire game was free. Like there was no access. That's about what Nathan's gonna say. So at the time, it was just completely the charity. I mean, you get a cool, like, you get the wall thing, and
You get the tile on the wall. That was definitely
charity.
a big draw.
And we still there was a lot of people, and we were really amazed and very happy when we saw the wall. I mean, it was almost like half the gold tier, which was really surprising for us. Like people were just really excited to support the game.
Yeah, there wasn't map creator behind it. People just wanted to do that because they really believed that this game had the potential to go on, and they knew that if we were going to do it for free, we might not be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
And as we push for the store, Meta generally said the same. And so we thought very critically about, okay, well, we still believe that fundamentally as a multiplayer game, it needs to be as accessible as possible. We want people to play this because we're really appealing to like a demographic of people who are just trying to like find like social multiplayer games. And a lot of the best ones that I found were I was only able to play because it was free. But we also knew that the game itself, all the content we're putting in, we're adding, lots of new things. There's like, different types of planets, different types of ships. There's a lot of value in there that, those who are really interested in the game could potentially see. And I think you guys kind of saw this journey too, where it's like, you start playing the game, you understand why you might want to buy it, and then you can decide if you really want to buy it and then get like the full package, like everything we have to offer is out there. But to maintain that kind of like free to play aspect, because there's a lot of people who are just interested in like kind of social multiplayer stuff. We tried to make sure that what you're paying for is really like the ability to control your experience, whereas the free tier, if you just want to hang around, bum in like public lobbies and stuff, you can still kind of do that, but you might not be able to have like control over what maps you're playing or the campaign or making your own maps. All those things are things that we're really reserving for the people who want to get more out of the game and who kind of like see the value in that experience.
And I also want to say it was really hard for us, because we also had this whole community of people that were free, and the entire game was free. And it was hard internally for us because we knew, and we had this pressure from Meta, in order to get on the store, we had to show evidence that we have a viable financial model, right? And we knew we didn't want to charge up front because
They,
you know,
although that was a very
for Nathan's reasons.
like tossed around idea.
But they,
you know,
they
it's just
kept
like, if you
trying to
try
push it on
you'll
us,
make
you
money.
know, and we're like, you know, I don't think it's what, you know, and we can, when you guys
People weren't
released your
happy.
podcast, we were just internally like, okay, like, did we like screw up? But I don't think we did, but we can revisit that later. But we had this whole internal dilemma of like, do we take away content? Like, how do we not like piss people off? And we also felt bad, you know, these people that play the game for free. And so some of the first things early we were considering, like, okay, we could do like a battle pass, and then we'd have to like build this whole thing on top of the game, and like everyone still gets what the current game is, but then we eventually realized it's like we can't just afford to like put all this development time into adding new content. There's clearly value in the game itself. We have to draw a line somewhere to make money off of that within the current game. And so that's kind of what led to our model. And then we also had a great new feature coming, the map creator, and we naturally kind of was like, okay, well, that is a feature people would pay for. Let's put that off.
And I think the funny thing about it is that, you know, it took a lot of debate. I mean, we debated every possible model you could think of. We shared some with the community. Everybody hated the battle pass. Nobody, you know, so we finally settled on this tier system. And, you know, the idea is that we wanted to make the free players have a great experience. And we had faith in the game that we would allow players to love the game so much that they'd want to support us. And, you know, that's a hard model to sell, especially if you're trying to sell it to any corporation or you know, somebody else who's like, hey, trust us, people love the game and they'll buy it. That's not really a solid financial model. But, you know, we did some statistics, we tracked stuff, and we figured the game can convert people, and people will fall in love with the game as much as we love the game, and hopefully they'll be wanting to support us, not having to support us, having to buy something to unlock everything, but wanting to support us. And I think that's the key difference with our game.
That's pretty much exactly how it went down. This is only I'm usually weary of anything that's free. I'm like, it's not going to be good. But this is the second example of a free, and you give a shit ton of content for free, by the way, where I've actually went and just started throwing money.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cards and Tankards
was the
another
first one. Yeah.
But I'll say, you know, not that I was welcome in those meetings by any means, but I'll say right now, you would not have wanted me in those debating meetings, because I would have died on the hill of, no, the game's worth a cost.
Just charge $24.99.
No, just charge $9.99, $14.99, whatever. I'm of the mentality people deserve to eat, especially when it's a really quality product.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that there's games that have cost significantly more that I have spent way less time in terms of, like, you know, actual gameplay hours spent in it. It's not even comparable. So yeah, I would have been the most annoying guy.
I think I was more amazed at the amount of free content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're giving away so much, but I didn't understand, you know, the history.
I get the path, because you're going to start free, then eventually you're going to get the $14.99.
Gets
then
in your
eventually
blood. Oh, well, that's what happened to me. I enjoyed it and kept enjoying it more and more. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I also knew that time was ticking to get on the wall. And I'm like, man, there'll be a day where that option's going to disappear. So I jumped on that one. And then foolishly after that is when
you would have, like
pay
I said,
the other 14 and just go the full.
Not that I was welcome, but yeah, you would have hated me in those meetings. I would have been like, how about we make it paid for 1 year? At the end of the year, we open up the spreadsheet. If we want to go back to free, we can. But I think we're gonna like the results. But I totally respect the mentality, especially because you guys had that prior community of free players. You never want that negative backlash. So it is a careful subject to approach. But the game is so freaking good. That's the only reason I say, like, yeah. It's worth the price tag, without a doubt. Without a doubt, to me, it's such a good game.
I know, at least for myself, I think one of my, and I don't know if this is true for Nathan, but one of my like insecurities in my game development career, I guess. Well, hopefully that's just starting. But I always thought, you know, I'm just some kid making games. Like, no, like there's no way people are just like they like. I would just have the belief kind of like in my head, it's like, are people just playing this because it's free? But like, as soon as push comes to shove and there's money on the line, like they're just going to be like, oh, that's just some game some kid made. I'm not paying for that. But I think, you know, especially that was also one of my insecurities with the single player content and things. But when I heard the podcast, the review, I was like, wow, there's people that are actually really enjoying the single player and really enjoy the, they're not just a bunch of kids that come in for the like free multiplayer. There are people that really enjoy the single player and the private room experience and those things. So that was really nice to hear.
No, I think what you guys have built and are continuing to I guess press upon is like, come on, man, it's over the top.
Oh yeah.
I don't think age has anything to do with it either. I didn't know that the team was so young. I knew that a game was there, and this is my feelings on it. And
I think the only thing
I think it's actually cooler that you guys are at the younger spectrum of the age, because now look at the amount of years that you can just grow with the. Let's be honest, younger people are quicker with the technology than older people. I say
you grew up with using VR in high school. That's something that a lot of people didn't have the opportunity to do in high school. You know,
yeah, that's crazy. Writing code.
I think
doing apps.
I think when you're 35 as well,
Jesus.
I think it'll be no problem charging money for games. I mean, I'll say like, I work at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, and it used to be very hard for me when I was 18 and I started work there and being like, oh, I got to convince people to spend money on martial arts. I feel like that's something that people should just be able to do. And then as I kind of aged, that insecurity went away completely, because it's like, no, it takes a long time to get a black belt in this martial art like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, 10 plus years. It's like, no, you deserve to get paid for the work that you put in to even get to that point. And same thing as a game developer. It's like, for the game to be what it is, that's how many hundreds of man hours put in. It's like, yeah, I think you guys deserve a little steak at the end of the day after putting in
a little steak.
Yeah, after putting in that more.
Everyone deserves to eat.
But I get it, because when you're young and it's the first time you're selling something, it's really hard to look at your own product and go, well, do I actually deserve money here? Are you going to go, no, I don't deserve it? But yeah, I think you do. You guys deserve to get paid.
At the end of the day, it's not even who made it. It's like we're all focusing on that product that
what's the final product? Is it polished enough? Does it deserve a price tag?
It's money worthy.
Fuck yeah.
It's definitely money worthy.
Hell yeah. But I totally respect the mentality.
I'd rather have somebody with that mentality though than the other way around, which is, it's worth a lot more money, and I don't care hell or high water, I'm gonna squeeze it out of you.
When you don't chase the money is when you end up with the money. If you made a product for the money and made it super monetized and predatory, then you wouldn't get any money. So you need to have your mentality to make a good game too. But
unless you're a really big game company, then you can get away with those.
Yeah, you can. EA. I won't say EA.
And of course, I'm
because,
sure.
Well, it's interesting, because one of my favorite reviews that we got was a 5-star review, and the guy was like, you guys must have had a ton of money and a big budget and a bunch of time to do this. And it was like, yeah, our budget was zero, and we got paid zero, and we've been in development, Jack and Nathan for 2 years, myself for a year, and only now, starting in January, have we seen any income really coming in at all. So, and making the transition to paid wasn't easy either. Like when we introduced the tiers, a lot of our free players were mad. So, we had a couple angry people, but most of the core of our fans really loved it. It stayed with us like we had hoped.
No, it's funny too, because I think around the time we were doing the transition, we started to bring up, guys, we have to monetize it. And people are like, wait, you're not getting paid? And we're like, how are we getting paid? What do you mean?
You do the math here. How much money have you paid?
Yeah, it was just funny. People would be like, what do you mean you're not making money? It's like, what do you
That's why we're rolling out the tiers. That's what we're trying to accomplish here.
I don't, and again, not everyone knows how it actually. Some people might think, well, just because I'm playing it must mean that somebody's getting paid because of I downloaded it. Isn't it how it works? Not realizing, no, you actually have to pony up physical money to.
In fact, there might actually be a overhead on the developer's end and server costs and things like that. So, totally
so
understand.
Technically, I guess we're in debt.
Well, we're at the time.
Not anymore,
definitely, if you added up a monetary value to every one of your hours, if you were to be paying yourself.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
Nope, can't do that. But I'm just
Business
saying,
101, that doesn't count.
Mentality-wise, if you were to look at it like that, yeah.
I think in the long run, it's. I just don't see a downside to it right now. The community's continuing to grow. I think as more people, and we all know more headsets are getting sold and bought and tried, that it's almost a no-brainer, because if your friends have it, they're going to want you to have it. It's just the way it is. The first thing you got to do is go buy Gods of Gravity so we can start playing. And So then it's just cool. I'm loving the growth of it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that the ceiling is endless. And I saw you guys, now that I've kind of, spit my heart out about why the game should be free and everything. I mean, why it shouldn't be free, why it should be paid. You guys have been teasing some really cool updates coming on social media. And I saw even one new ship that looks like, or something going on that involves destroying a planet. Is that the case?
That is perhaps the case. There is, all good things in space, naturally have to have planetary destruction level events, I think. And so, yeah, coming towards the end of this month, January, we are planning a pretty substantial content update. Which
It's been in the works for a while.
It's been in the works for a while, yeah.
Yep.
I don't really know how to describe it. Not that it's like confidential or anything. There's just a lot of stuff in it. Jack, do you think you can really?
Yeah, sure.
Put the words...
Our main goals are to really just expand tools for map creator. With every new element you add. I was a huge Minecraft fan, and I did some redstone, and anytime they'd introduce a new component, you're like, oh, it just makes so many more possibilities available. That's what we're trying to do with map creator and just the maps in general in the game. Create more variety and content. Make that creator price point a little more exciting. That comes with adding also really cool things like the thing we were teasing in that video. There's going to be a new type of sun that is kind of behaves like a king of the hill objective that you can charge up, and then it blows up people's home planets. And so kind of branching out into other game mode possibilities, and some exciting things. A new god, which should shake up balance, just be an exciting thing for people.
Love new gods.
New campaign levels, as always with the new god. So a whole lot of content and a bunch of other stuff that I didn't even mention, but it was in the works. For a while, there was a whole long process with getting onto the store where you basically, Meta does testing on your app, and so you can't really change the app for like about a month before. So we're just like, oh well, like let's start working on the next thing. Like we can't just sit around on our hands here. So yeah, we're really excited to release this update, and we've just released a cosmetic store, just a little mini update we slotted in, which we're gonna see how it goes. I think we're gonna meet tomorrow and discuss how the weekend went. But people seem really excited about to buy cosmetics and to support us, which seems really great. In the Discord, there was just like a bunch of kids being in like, I'm in 7th period right now, and all I can think about is getting home and buying the cosmetics. I'm like, okay, well, that's positive.
Do that.
Yeah.
No, definitely, you guys have a great community. I think that shows.
Yeah, that was the thing that stood out the most after I played it and went to their Discord, and I'm like, holy crap, this place is banging. And then when we got a few of your guys jumped into ours, and I was like, oh Jesus, these guys, this is for real. There's a passion that exists with the community.
Yeah, the Discord doesn't stop, and if you notice, all 3 of us are super active. We're in there every day answering questions, talking to people, and just keeping that vibe going, because we do like the community. We like that they're so active and passionate, and we just they reflect our passion, and I think it just helps.
Yeah, I think something that really gives a positive image to us, and we're not doing this to get a positive image, but we're really active in the Discord, and we just sort of talk to people like all day on there. I know for about a year, since Apple, and I recently had to turn it off, but I had all message notifications on Discord on. So like every time somebody would send a message in the server, I'd get like a notification on my phone. So I was like I knew like everything that was going on in the Discord, and we'd all be responding. And it's recently got a little more chaotic in there, and just a lot of faces. So I can't have my phone blown up every second of the day, but it's been really rewarding to see our Discord community grow and just have be very positive.
I'm also a huge fan of whenever, I don't care what it is you like, if you can actually talk to the creator of it and get a response from that person, it feels good. I don't care what it is. So that and I've seen any time I've gone in there, I see the developers are in there, the little green next to the name. So I'm like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, very actively engaging with the community.
Positively passionate. I have nothing bad to say about the community. I haven't seen any toxicity at all, which is huge.
It's one thing to have a big community. It's another thing to have a positive community. Those are two.
Little self-managing to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to know, just for my own notes when I play this game, what gods do you each use?
The age-old question. I mean, there's definitely some gods that people will like proudly champion as the best. Right now, there's this huge shift towards the God of Teleportation, which amusingly for basically the entirety of the game's lifetime was like undoubtedly people's least favorite god. They thought it was the worst because it was like its powers were kind of tied towards utility. You can teleport with with ships like as you're moving around the galaxy, which means you can move around a lot faster, and you have this ability which lets you bring your entire fleet to where you are all at once, which to a lot of people is just seen as kind of useless because then you just be left super vulnerable after that attack. But amusingly, I think after some kind of shifts in perspective, people have realized that positioning is really important, and having the ability to kind of just like move your army kind of like wherever you want in a given just on a drop is quite a powerful tool. And so I think that's maybe the most popular one. Second up, some other things, maybe Jack.
Okay, but Nathan, what's your personal favorite?
My personal favorite god? Oh, I missed the question. My
sir.
personal favorite god has always been the invisible god, the god of stealth. I just think it's really fun to kind of like trick people into thinking other things. It makes for a kind of a frustrating experience to play against.
Don't you hate stealth? Is that the reaction there?
Oh God, I fucking whenever the AI has stealth, I get so fucking pissed. I'm like, this guy, man, there's question marks. I got no idea what's going on. Is this a big planet, a small planet? What's going on? Yeah, one of my
it's funny.
One of my least favorite ones to face, I'll say. How about you two, Jack and Steve?
It's funny because we had internal dialogue in the team about saying that this god needs to be changed and it's weak, but I like Conquest. I don't play it all the time, but it's so satisfying to actually land a good EMP on somebody, which disables all their support ships, so it like stack the fight if you go in. Just like something I love to do with that is like I remember I was playing this game and there was this like team of 3 kids all on one team and they were about to go for my home base, and I was really weak at that point. But I crawled up like 5 stories above the map, and I was down there because they didn't like know where I was, and like I wanted to basically, they were attacking my home planet, and so I dropped an EMP like all the way from up there, because if I just popped it off in front of them, they're gonna like run away or like see it. But I went up there, dropped it on them, and then teleported back to my home base, like gathered up all my ships, and then the EMP hit at just as they attacked, and I came in and they were like running in panic, and I was just on their tail, and I evened up the match, and it was just a crazy fun moment. And that's why I just like the EMP ability a lot. That'll be my favorite.
I'd say that one's probably underrated in my playtime, but I could totally see the benefit in that, for comebacks, and also I'd probably drop one of those right before making a major push on the home base too. Fuck them.
Oh yeah, you can really take out their defenses.
Yeah, how about
you,
especially
since last thing about EMP that's my favorite. It turns off battleships. It kills battleships. Or those are support ships. So like when somebody comes at you with some huge battleship army, just blow them out.
I played with the EMP one, and then
I think the campaign made me do it one mode, or maybe it defaultly gave it to me, and I just continued with it.
No, they definitely do. I like the reinforcement.
Yeah, but how about you, Steve? Steve, what do you play with?
Defense. God of Defense is my favorite.
No.
Yeah, and
is that the shield one?
It's gone through so many
the
nerfs.
shield one's a good one.
It came in and was super overpowered and was amazing, and then it just has been nerfed and nerfed and nerfed because nobody likes it. And I think it's back to a good state again right now, and I just have a lot of fun with it. I think one of the coolest things, and it always throws people off, is that you can be aggressive or defensive with it. And people don't realize that. They just think of it as a defensive god, but you can really make aggressive plays, kick off your shields, use your wand shield, and while you're attacking, you don't really have to worry about your planets that much. You can kind of split your time, and it's just really fun because I like the idea of, our whole model that we've done is play your way, and that God allows you to play your way as many of the other gods do. And I think, when you first hear something like God of Defense, God of Production, you may just think it's a base thing. But one thing our competitive community has taught us is that if you play it right, you can do anything you want with these gods. You can be aggressive, you can be defensive, you can do whatever you want, and you can be good if you understand how to use that god and that god ability and their passives and do it well. And so it's really grown, and where we might have had one standout god, I think the competitive scene has really shown that you can be successful with a lot of different gods.
So I like the whole
kind of-
play your way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like right or wrong way. It's what's going to work for you, what strategies will work for you.
You were saying before you really like the reproduction god. That's what we usually play when we're on the same team
Lately,
together.
that's my favorite one. And I think it's only because I was playing against an AI once and it had it, and it was just using it so well. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. This is getting, it was like really irritating me. So I'm like, I'm going to play with that one for a while.
Yeah, it's funny. When we play together, that's the one we defaultly go to. For a bit, we were using the shield,
Yeah.
but the reproduction's
Shield's a
been
great one.
Yeah, but the reproduction's been our go-to together. But when I play solo, I'm 100% about the teleportation because I love being able to grab the troops. And it's one thing that, teleport between the planets when you're empty-handed, but you try to do that with a handful of troops and they're just going to be floating everywhere unless you're the teleportation god. And passively, he has pretty good, production speed. But the special ability of teleporting all of your troops to one spot is so great, but it's not really the best for if you're working with a buddy. And, he has a handful of troops.
Yeah, no, that does not work at all.
You just completely nuke his whole battlefield, what he has going on for your own selfish desires. So I love it solo, but definitely for going together, yeah, reproduction's been our recent one. But shield is so good too.
No, they're all good. It's just how you want to use them.
Mm-hmm. I could see EMP, like Jack was saying, being really good. I've never really.
I love the idea of hiking up out of sight, though. I never thought of that.
Well, we had been telling ourselves when we can beat five, a team of five, or 5 total teams, so 4 other AI teams. When we can beat that on insane difficulty, we're ready for real humans. So we passed that benchmark. I think we're ready to.
Now we got someone in our Discord who loves your game that I've been avoiding because I don't want to get spanked because I don't feel good enough.
You're spanked by a
They
teenager.
try to challenge you to like a 1v1.
Yeah, I think it's Slushmatic. He's on us. He wants to mess us up real bad.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Slush is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love trash talking players in our Discord, and then like they'll always just be like 1v1, 1v1. No, I just never do it. But I think
And do you guys ever play like on teams? Do you like doing that style, or do you prefer to control your whole army solo?
Well, I enjoy the co-op style of play, but I feel like I haven't found a great teammate in my time. I was working on a new map, which is like you have a pretend alliance with somebody, so 2 of your home bases are very close to each other, and so you can kind of pretend to be on the same team for a while. And I feel like that was really engaging. I mean, you can also just betray your teammate.
Yeah, I was going to say there's always that one guy. Conveniently, he's attacking that other guy. Boom.
And you can just go in and just take him out.
No,
but
I tried that.
Yeah.
We were playing that map to just test it, and it's kind of like there's 2 separate sort of solar systems, and then there's that are all like both revolving around each other. So there's this like middle battlefield, and there's also like where you start with your little opponent on the other side, or your friend. The map's called friend or foe. So at the beginning of the match, I was like, okay, like Eggster, we gotta like team up against Nathan, and I forget who it was, and so we teamed up. We were like working our way and like acting together, and it's fun. It's fun when you're working together and you're not on the same team, because it has to be even more strategic, because you're like, okay, like because you can shoot at each other, and like you gotta like figure out which one of you actually should control the bases, and you'll move into a fight and you're like, oh, I don't have power there, but like, oh, like, can you give me that planet? And they're like, okay, yeah, I'll take my ships away from there so you can take it easily. You'll come in and you'll be like fighting. There's like 4 teams trying to fight for one planet. But I unfortunately my teammate was also the best competitive player in the world, and I tried to backstab him, and it did not go well for me.
My team may take the win though, so you know.
I think we've had a big focus, and we've talked about it a lot lately. Is the co-op? What can we do to add co-op functionality? I think it's something we'll look at because, as you can hear, we love playing with other members of the community. We love playing together and just going out and conquering stuff. And I think it's a
suck
big
at
opportunity
competitive,
for
so
us. Yeah,
I'd love to have
Oh my
friends
gosh,
instead
yeah.
of foes.
Yeah, co-op stuff is going to be a blast. But yeah, our competitive community has grown so much, and they've become insanely good in a short amount of time. And the tournaments that we run have definitely helped us balance stuff and make more gods accessible to people. So I don't know, it's a ton of fun, but co-op's definitely something we're looking at.
That's awesome because we love playing on the same team together. But it would be cool as well to each be able to have our own home base. We play a lot of co-op games together, father son. We have chemistry, and even then, it took a little bit of I'll say learning curve of getting
different play styles.
Mhm.
So you got to give and take on your play style to make it work. Because if one guy's just focused on his own thing, you're just screwed.
You got to be communicative. But we've gotten really good at it. Like I said, maybe it's not impressive to beat the insane AI, but it based off of the way
Felt
it went.
good.
Yeah,
I don't care.
For us noobs, it was good. Maybe you'll go out fighting out, and I'll be kind of fighting, more defending the home front and getting whatever asteroids pop up.
Jacking asteroids.
Which I've noticed if you lose your asteroids that pop up around your home base to another team, you're screwed. And if you can happen to take somebody else's asteroids, makes such a difference. But definitely there's been, growing pains in getting used to it. There's been a couple moments where it's not heated, but it's like, what are you doing? I'm over here.
Thanks for taking all the troops too.
Yeah, but
that's my number one.
Yeah, but at this point, we've gotten quite the chemistry together, working together. But I think it would be easier to find, workable teammates if you each had your own home base and troops. But it is kind of a cool dynamic being on the same team too, the same home base, and like I said, fighting over troops.
Just gets better and better.
Yeah.
That's kind of my attitude toward it.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things to see is we had run tournaments for a while as 1v1s, but then we started doing we mixed in some doubles tournaments with still one team versus one team, but there'd be two people on each team, and it was so exciting to see the different strategies emerge. As you can just have bigger maps and just more chaos, and seeing one person sending in the big army, and the other person's holding some snipers in their hand over the battle and providing support, or just all sorts of fun things that you can do if you have two people on the same team. And it's definitely it's one of my favorite ways to play the game.
So what would be your individual best tips you would give a new player so they don't, since honestly you come in a little blind with this whole style, it's all new to me. What would be the best advice or play style that you think would work?
I think the most important learning moment for people, once you figure out the base mechanics, is that, although you are a god, and your ships can go and do stuff on your own, when you throw them at a base, you don't just have to watch them die. You can go and actually make a difference. They're not just praying oh, if only someone could help me. You can go over there and keep your ships alive and try to manipulate the fight in your favor. And I think that when you realize that it's not just throwing your ships and watching them, and you can actually kind of position them around the enemy ships, dodge missiles and stuff, that is a huge boost in power, and it means that you survive a lot longer. Your ships don't die as frequently. I think that makes a really big difference.
A lot of people view the game kind of like Risk, right? Or at least it's a fair comparison in some ways. It's something we've seen on a lot of reviews, it's Risk in space, where okay, you see a base with 9, you go in with 13, you're gonna win, but the cool reality of the game is it's really not it's not a numbers game exactly like that. You have a direct influence on the battle, and some of our best players show that you could take a planet with 30 turrets defending it with 2 ships if you're that good, and if you have the proper strategy. So it's really, it kind of opens your mind when you start thinking about how can I directly influence the battle, as Nathan was saying. But we have also,
yeah, go ahead.
Something we've been really focusing on and continue to focus on is trying to improve the experience for new players, both within the game itself and also for players who really want to level up their gameplay. And we've been building out resources for people. We have the YouTube, which has its own playlist on there, which has videos where you can learn about the different mechanics in more detail. We also are doing a new series, which is like a campaign guide, which is also actually linked in the game, in the campaign. But basically that's playing through the whole campaign and giving like tips and tricks to help people level up their gameplay. And yeah, we're also even building out a wiki, which is kind of funny, or the community is. And I've been unable to resist, going in there and just going crazy with the wiki. But something we did want to talk to you guys about is, ways to improve the sort of onboarding new player experience. And it's something we believe is really essential to making, an inviting game and a fun game, is like, how can it not be incredibly confusing? How can we help guide players through our game to have the best experience they can? And I guess I had a few questions specifically, but like, what is your thoughts on like sort of new player experience within the game? Or like, I know, how did you struggle with the quick start tutorial, like, or how was your experience?
My overall experience wasn't bad at all. And really, I mean, I can honestly say I went into it with like no previous knowledge of how it was gonna. I mean, I read the description, that was probably it. And I found it gave me the ability to actually learn at my own when it was all said and done. Like I used to, when I first started playing, I'll teleport troops into planets, and I was like, oh shit, I had 20, they had 9, and I'm all dead.
So
I
don't put them
realized,
right in
like,
their grill.
I realized different strategies, but as far as like how it functions and the gameplay, I didn't see any problem with the tutorial.
No, that was something that was complimentary in the review, that like, each campaign mission in the beginning kind of introduces a new gameplay element versus kind of throwing everything at you at once with black holes and asteroids and all the different ship types.
The different gods.
If I remember correctly, the first couple levels, there's only a couple different ship types. It's very basic. And then as the campaign progresses, more and more ship types are added and, more different gameplay elements. I think if there's one thing that I was confused about by like level 4 or 5, and I was like, I know they definitely showed me this, and it's my fault as the consumer because I wasn't paying attention, but I totally forget. I was like, I know the moons do something very important, and I should get them, but I couldn't remember what exactly. The why. And I know that was covered. I don't know if it wasn't emphasized enough, but somehow I have a feeling it was me as the consumer. But the game really wasn't confusing. I mean, going through the campaign
is challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that right now.
Especially
there was the learning build up, but I think once you get to like the black hole one,
once you get to the point that the game requires you to have bought the game to continue playing the campaign, after that point, it's difficult. I'd say leading into that, it's much more of like an introductory, teach you how to play experience, which I think is a very good onboarding experience.
It's a long answer for we liked it.
Yeah, we liked it. I guess if there's anything, maybe more emphasis on what the hell the moons do with a new player, because like, again, I don't know. I kind of, it wasn't my number one focus, and by the time I needed to remember, I wish I had remembered.
Yeah, we heard that a lot when the game went onto the store. So what we kind of ended up doing was I went back and I like changed all the descriptions of the levels. Like before it was just like, like conquer the galaxy, and now it's just like, okay, let me lay out for you exactly like what some things do just right off the bat. And then we get into the descriptions which are more like, all right, vanquish your enemy or whatever. So that if you're playing those first few levels, like you definitely know like we're not like dancing around it. It's not like kind of flowery. It's more just like, here's what a moon does, here's what a planet does. And we're also always thinking is, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, a change we've made to the campaign, which we're excited about, and this has happened on Friday, so very recently, was the ability to select a difficulty in the campaign as you're playing, which we hope will allow people to, have fun. And, there was like so much, like, oh, the campaign's like too difficult. Oh, it's like too easy. It's like, okay, like eventually we just folded. We're like, okay, we need difficulties. So now you can play the campaign at 3 different difficulties. Right now, there are no changes in the rewards you get or whatever, but you can play it how you want. And
Yeah.
I have yet to see how bad the difficulty hard. I haven't done a hard playthrough on it, but it should
It's hard.
definitely pose a challenge for more experienced players. And,
That was
the
gonna-
easy difficulty should really open it up and make it more accessible for everyone who just wants to play through it and just see what cool stuff there is.
So the middle
Yeah.
difficulty is what people would be familiar with as the difficulty prior. Okay, damn it!
Yeah,
I was
if you
hoping
play
that
through-
the old difficulty was hard and I was just a beast.
Yeah.
The
Nope,
hardest
here I
hard.
am now in my normal.
It is hard.
Ah.
Yeah, the hard's really
campaign is
hard. But I will say, like, that's one thing. If I could, any takeaway from this podcast is to show you how passionate we are and how much we listen to the community. The idea of throwing in difficulty settings because people are struggling. The idea that we spend, I don't know how many hours trying to figure out a good new player experience, making sure the tutorial is smooth and the campaigns actually roll out. All that stuff we think about, and we try to get the best possible experience coming in for any new player so that they can just pick it up and just play through and gradually learn everything without just dumping a bunch of information on them. But it's something we're really excited about and something we love doing, refining, and we'll keep doing it just to make sure that the new player experience is solid.
I think something that I'm an absolute sucker for, and not to steal directly from them, but just to use them as an example of a game that does it well. I don't know if you've ever heard of Iron Guard VR. It's another App Lab graduate, but they were kind of a top-down tower defense game. It's so simple, but I love it. Each level has a 3-star rating. So just because you cleared the level doesn't mean necessarily you did it the best possible. And then there's also a leaderboard for each level. So like Stratus over here got wicked obsessive with got to get on the top 10 of every level. And me, I wasn't so obsessed with the leaderboard, but I had to get 3 stars. Now, how exactly that would work in this game with, what means what score and I guess what's the criteria for each stars, that's a much more complicated part of the puzzle than what I just presented as the conceptual idea, which is really easy to come up with. But I think something like that too, it gives players reasons to play the campaign missions over again that maybe they don't have now. As we're right now, it's kind of like you beat it, check mark. When you're done with the campaign, you might not ever visit again. But if you only got 2 stars on some of the levels, the OCD in you is going to kick in eventually.
Right. I'm laughing. So
So
you
you
saw us
started
laugh
laughing, yeah.
a minute ago, and it's because we had this exact discussion last week. So the idea of 3 stars and figuring out some sort of tracking with that, and then including in extra challenges in the campaign to make sure there's replayability and different settings, different rewards for different challenge or difficulty. We had a huge discussion about this, and we have some fun ideas. But yeah, I laugh because I love when we see the community talk about something that we've talked about, and it's kind of like, see, we knew it would be a good idea, or like, oh yes, that's awesome, maybe we should pursue that more. And so I laugh because it's awesome to hear that people would play it and that somebody else besides us think it's a good idea.
Yeah, the reason we didn't go up or prioritize it higher was we were really trying to focus on making it so new players can just like get through the campaign before we worry about is there not enough replayability. It's like we want to make sure that players, because I do think there's a lot of levels, and especially as we're adding 3 more, just to even get through the whole thing is already a lot of time. And yeah, it would be great to have replayability. I love the star system, but we do we have some stats and we try to like track like, okay, this level's losing more % of the players than average. Like, what can we do to like try to just make it so that our players are just excited to and just can make it through the whole thing.
No, those kind of analytics I'm sure are so helpful for you guys to have,
especially if you know how to use them and respond to them accordingly. Then you're really just smoothing out any edges that might pop up.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I might be in the small minority as a consumer here, so don't take my word as the gospel or anything. But like example, when me and Trash over here are doing co-op, I don't always look forward to like competitive facing other players. I love kind of player versus everyone, us playing against AI. Some of our favorite and most replayed games, like Contractors for doing, zombies and stuff like that. It's, I'm not always the best player, and sometimes facing real players can be daunting. Something it's you guys do great, and I'd love to see it expanded is, how much possibility there is without ever facing a real player. Even with co-op, we can go in the custom games, and then with the map creator too, and it's like you have so much replayability, even playing with a friend without ever, even facing a real person. But then if you want to, boom, super easy to do too. So I think that's something I'll give you guys a lot of credit for, and it's
Yeah, it wasn't forced multiplayer,
no,
that's an area of gaming I dislike.
Exactly.
So I like the ability that let me get good, kind of figure out a strategy before throwing myself to the wolves.
let me do player versus everyone co-op. Me and Stratus working together against AI. I don't need a 12-year-old handing me a high school butt whooping.
Ass whooping in
Yeah.
the century.
But
Yeah, we do definitely have plans to build out more dedicated co-op content, as we think that's sort of you can do it in custom games and set up your own stuff, and there's a lot of possibilities, but sort of a area we feel like can have more emphasis on, as we love people working together, and that should lead to also more positivity and things.
Yeah, and whether or not that's
it's
even a
always
minority
more fun for everyone.
mindset is hard to say, because you can't see where the private rooms are. I think that's where a lot of the co-op
Yeah.
play is. You can scroll scenes like, oh look, there's a million people playing against each other, right? But like we've heard it like in reviews and on Discord, a lot of people are just like, oh, I want to play with my friend. Can I do like co-op campaign? Are there like battles I can do where I fight against bots? It's definitely an area that we've been sort of had like in our mind that this is like something we want to do. But the everyone in Discord is obviously like a trash talking like I want to 1v1 everyone. So like we're gonna hear that the most while we're on App Lab. But there's a lot of potential for co-op content. The bots definitely put up a good challenge, and I think that we can definitely come up with more like unbalanced scenarios, so you really feel like you have to work with a teammate, or you really have to like kind of put up a good fight without just worrying about that fight being against another player on like a supposedly even battlefield. Like there's a lot of fun to be had there. Like Jack said, after. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I probably won't touch the hard mode of the campaign by myself, but if I could with him, I'd be like, that's what we're doing tomorrow. We're going through that campaign on hard mode. So I love those ideas. Before we just passed over a little bit over an hour. That's usually I joke that's the time we start to pickle up and everything like that. I've been sitting in vinegar too long at that point. But before we wrap it up and let you guys go, Stratus, is there anything that you wanted to ask that we didn't go over? And also same to
I got more than I would have bargained for.
Yeah, right.
I got notes upon notes that I'm gonna have to.
This was a good one.
No, look, you reach a point where you start sounding biased to a product because you like it, and it's known that
it's a genre that we like too, and let's be real.
I like knowing the passion that the developers are taking to this, and that it's not a dead project, even though to me it's a finished one. But the fact that there's more coming, and there's going to be more quality of life things coming, and just more more campaign level, whatever. And these guys are so young.
I know.
It's like we're going to have 20, 30 years of watching their development careers in their studio.
I'm sitting over here, 26-year-old, like a bitter old man, being like, charge people money for your product.
So it's like, I don't know. I'm just excited for what they've done so early. It's like,
it's so impressive.
VR is
so
still
much
such a
potential.
new market, and you've got certain people who are out there legitimately, I think, that are going to crush it. And I put these guys with that department of they're on that right path. They're doing everything. An obstacle comes, they'll deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Something needs to be fixed, it'll be dealt with.
The way Steve makes it sound shockingly quick too.
Like it's not, well, they're not being reactive. They're being proactive to their entire product. So it's like, it's cool when you see this go down. I've seen it go down with other developers who have big studios right now. So this is a team that's on the right path.
Yeah, let's be real. They said they don't have other games in the works now, but down the line, you see Trash Games, attached to a game. It's going to be good based off of this one.
Yeah.
And same question to you three, Nathan, Steve, and Jack. Any other question? Or sorry, anything that we didn't go over that you want to touch base on?
Yeah, we have our own set of notes here. You guys feel like there's still outstanding things we wanted to go over?
You already mentioned, something you'd like to see in the game might be more co-op content. Were there any like major other things you're really like looking for? Because obviously, not that we're looking for ideas necessarily. We've got so many from the community and just from ourselves, but just out of curiosity, or like,
yeah, you love the feedback.
Yeah.
No,
Only thing I'd ever want would be the ability to play each having our own base, but being on the same team.
And just expanded offline co-op. But I know offline co-op is kind of like a oxymoron because if we're playing together,
You're online.
we're online. But I mean, like, co-op against,
That's the only
bots.
thing in the whole, because I still feel like I have a lot to learn too with the and even some stuff I heard today that are going to make me try as a strategy.
Yeah, right.
With the taking out a whole planet with just a handful.
Yeah, I gotta.
I'm kind of at that level where I've been throwing,
at
not
a distance.
throwing, but using ships at different angles of the planet and going, oh wow, this is actually, I didn't know you actually have as much control as I didn't know you had.
Learning that you don't want to put the ships up in their grill because they're going to get massacred.
It sounds nice when it happens, though.
Yeah, I'm winning. Wait, it only went down 4. No, yeah, just expanded co-op. Whether that's just more different maps or campaign being co-op or like offline tournaments against bots. I don't know, just fun stuff like that.
Tournaments against
bots. I don't know. I think back to old sports games. I used to always run tournaments, with my buddies.
No, I got
you. And then, we got to win 3 matches in a row to actually call this a success. Let's go. So that kind of stuff. I don't know, silly stuff, but yeah, I think you guys are on to a great path. I think that the game's up. Since it's free, I can confidently say to everybody, must try. Go download it. You have nothing to lose besides potentially falling in love and then later buying the game. But when it's free, it's a pretty easy sell to people.
Yeah, it's not one to walk away from.
Got a final question. Really ties into the free thing, and you called out repeatedly that you felt like we give too much away for free. And now that you've played the game for a good bit, where would you draw the line between free and paid?
I wouldn't give it for free.
I can't. Yeah, I'm probably the last guy.
Yeah, you don't want me in those. You don't.
I'm amazed when and we've seen it. It people can do it and they make it work, but I'm more of like I would have just rather paid $14.99 right up front and just had this amount, and then if I could have paid an additional amount but that's just me. It's like I can't even imagine where free meets paid.
Yeah, the only
because no matter what, somebody's getting upset. It's like whether you give
you've put
5 campaigns or if you gave 10 campaigns, and it wouldn't matter. It's still somebody's going to be like,
yes, the free crowd's hard to please. It's very hard to please.
But I'm definitely the wrong guy for that one.
Yeah, the game.
I would have charged for what you gave away for free. I would have charged probably easily $9.
Look, I would have 2 tiers, but it would be the default tier, which is the cheapest tier that you pay to get the game, and then you could pay to get the map creator from there if you wanted that type of monetizing tier model. But yeah, I would give nothing for free. The most would be a demo on App Lab that would be a non-customizable 1v1 match on one map against an AI, and that's it. But even then, it's like, I'd be puking saying it.
There is a try before you buy option that Meta allows you to do, but that just because we want to make our fans passionate, we want to convert them. It's a hard sell, especially with the market being in teenagers. A lot of the big market is teenagers and early 20 something, and they're not always willing to drop $20 on a game right out of the gate. So we're hoping, just like we talked about earlier, is like, you try the game for free. There's absolutely nothing to lose. Download it. Doesn't hurt you at all. But hopefully we win you over and you go, it's just 3 guys doing the best they can and putting in not just hours of work, but years of work. And they've made a game that they're passionate about, and that hopefully the player will become passionate about as well.
Yeah, I think that when you guys brought up in the review, that we should just charge up front for the game, there's definitely a lot of simplicity to that. And we're like in ourselves, like, okay, we're trying to okay, what is the argument against that? Like, why did we not do that? And it's making us, sort of think against that. But I think what it really comes down to is the demographics of our audience, right? You guys are, I'm not going to call you old, a little older than our average user, at least based on the analytics. And
damn.
that, that means that, you've got more income. You're used to pay up front for a game, have more disposable income, where that's all right. But what we've really found is that, like, kids these days getting their Quest, and they're 13 or less or whatever, right? They're
They better not
young
be
kids
less.
getting this, like, instead of getting I'm sure you guys got consoles, you know back when you get the Xbox or whatever, right? These are kids that are just getting VR and they just want to play games, and they don't they're not ready to drop $15 on a game that's not Call of Duty or something, or whatever. And so I think from that perspective, it's really, we want to rope in as many users as we can, and that's why it was necessary, even though it's led to confusion and like just it's more complicated. That's why we've ultimately decided to go free, and that's why we're still believing in the system.
Well,
Oh,
I mean, for what it's worth, the tiered thing worked
Yeah.
because you got me both times. So
Mhm.
I mean, and that's not my norm. It's like I prefer to just do the
Yeah, I mean, I
one
can
and done type of attitude, but it worked. So whatever you're doing works.
also be argumentative though and say that Among Us, $10 game, and Population 1, $29.99 game, I have had no shortage of what I'd be surprised to hear is 13-year-olds in that app as well. No, I totally get the mentality you guys have, especially because you have an existing community.
Yeah, there's a
Of-
pre-existing fan base that people get angry when they go from free to paid.
Mm-hmm. But especially in your game where it's multiplayer and having a vibrant community adds to the replayability. But I'd personally just rather 1,000 people pay me $10 than 10,000 people who pay me no dollars.
And that is something we say on this side of the fence too.
Yeah, and the only reason why we say it is because we enjoy the game. We think it's a quality app, and that people
Want to
deserve
see
to
people
eat.
make some money for it. Yeah.
Realistically, the more money you guys make, unless you take the money and then you run off to Eastern Europe and live in a castle the rest of your life, realistically, the
bad
more
option.
money that you make, it's just going to make the games better. So me as a consumer, I'm like the thought that these guys aren't getting any money. That's painful, So it's I say it not to be negative and argumentative. I say it as a fan of the game, like, holy shit, you guys made a great product. In comparison to the pricing of other games on the store for the amount of hours you can get into it, it's squashing more expensive games. To me, it's a no-brainer. Like I said, I would be the last guy you'd want in the meeting room about whether you stay free or not. Your Discord community would hate me. There's probably people punching holes in their wall as they're listening to this, like, guys, shut up, stop telling them to make it paid. But you guys got bills. It's a good game, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if the free community is the crowd that's also going to be the one that's going to later buy paid content. It sounds like it is, though, based off of what you were saying with how people were excited for the cosmetics and stuff like that. But you get 10,000 people who are used to a business model of free. Are they ever really going to be willing to spend money? I don't know. For me, I'd rather, if I was a business owner, I'd rather just a dedicated audience that, like Walkabout Mini Golf, their base game costs money. They put out DLCs, and nobody calls them predatory or money hungry. And if anything, the praise is the opposite. People are like, these guys are awesome. I think that I think overall the VR community has a support the devs mentality. So I don't know. I see nothing wrong with it. I know I'm just ranting at this point. I'll shut up.
No, it's tough for
No.
sure. It's been there have been a lot of debates, and it's tough. I will say it is hard because that's the same thing we have to figure out too.
Yeah.
And one of our other challenges that we're going to deal with is making sure that our game looks appealing to Meta, right? We want them to advertise it to the extent that they do. They do prioritize different games more so on the homepage, for example, right? We want to be showcased. We want to show that players who play our game, they spend a lot of time in it, and they're likely to be converted. I mean, Meta speaks the language of money, right? So we have to find better ways to improve our our conversion rates and improve our money making ability, right? So that Meta is incentivized to put us on that front page, and that we're a good candidate to direct their audience to. And so we'll see how it goes in the next few weeks with that.
Yeah, selfishly, I'll say we have a weird bias against free games. I think Stratus kind of alluded to it earlier that twice now he's been shocked by free games that we've avoided because they were free that later were great. I don't know if that's another thing.
Both of them got my money.
Yeah, both. Well, that's another thing. As much as I'm arguing
Both
against
of them got
you,
my money.
yeah, as much as I can argue against you against the tier model,
It seems to work.
it worked for me. So I'm shouting into the wind. I guess.
I mean, for this one, it's getting it into more hands. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it depends on what you want to look for. Like
I just hope to see that demographic change towards the little upper skill.
You look at Resolution Games with Ultimex, they decided that it was best for their style of game to have a vibrant community and to make it free. That's the business model they went with, and clearly it works. So there's arguments for every side. I'm just on the I guess get your Discord with pitchforks and hating me by saying it, but I don't know. It's just where it's the hill I'll die on.
No, yeah, it was validating seeing the switch from Ultimex to free. Just gave me some confidence, like, oh yeah, like they can't make it paid, like there must be like some validity to like the free, because it was something where when you're going into it, meta was like, there's not a lot of free games, like you really got to be very careful what you do, which is definitely true. But it's nice to see that there's, well, I guess more competition for us, but nice to see that free is, people are choosing to do free games, and evidence that our model might be successful.
I guess if I wanted to just keep being an argumentative, prick like I am, I could say that Ultimex probably doesn't pay Resolution's bills though, because they do have Demio, Bait, Cookout, for good 5 or 6 good solid selling games. Blastin', but they made Blastin' free as well. So what am I going to say?
Yes, no, they made their games free because they think it'll be more profitable for them, right? I mean, they're a company; they've made a decision, and
we'll see if we can ever have multiple things to source.
Cool.
Right.
That's the dream.
It's a good problem to have.
Based off of the start of the interview, it sounds like you guys have a lot of old gem ideas in your back pocket, ready to go on any moment. So. Like I said, anything with the Trash Games label on it, I'm going to be so excited to see, coming.
I'll just resort to the passion. It's like it's not a dead project. I'm happy to know it's going to keep growing. It's only going to get better. And I'm content today. So it's like I can only imagine how I'm going to feel down the road.
Yeah. It's clearly these are guys that are just passionate about making a better game. Sorry to cut you off there, too. It's like, if I'm arguing with you to charge more money, it's not because you're predatory with chasing money. It's because you love having a vibrant community and doing what you do so much.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have watched South Park, and specifically the World of Warcraft episode, right?
Yes, one of the all-time great.
Yeah. I feel like with our transition to the quest store, it was almost like, I forget the name of the character, but at the end they defeat the the neckbeard, I don't know, the boss, right? And then they're like, oh, we can finally what do we do next? And then just like, oh, now we can finally play the game. And I feel like that's with us in the store, like we put in so much grind now, and now that we're on the store, it's like, it's not like, oh, we're done, that's it, even though
now
we
it's
viewed
begun.
this milestone, like a huge milestone, it's like, oh, now we can actually work, now it's actually art
It's actually
can be a career.
Yeah, no, that's a great call too. It might be a good spot to end it there. But that, getting on the Oculus store at that point was the end goal. But now that we're there, this is just the start. And we want to grow the game. We're going to grow the studio, and we're going to do everything we can to keep our passion growing, everything that we do.
Well, I certainly think it's going to be successful and continue to be successful. And it's just a matter of word getting out and people trying it. That's where I feel like I'm the biggest proof in that. It's like I wasn't gunning for it, but it certainly is gunning for me. So,
and now you're dying to create maps. So we often say jiu-jitsu, when you hit black belt, the journey just begins. And I think it's just the same with the official store. Once you hit that official store, it's just begun. So
yeah, it's going to be neat watching this whole studio grow.
Yeah. Oh, I
Real
can't
neat.
wait. 21, man. These guys are going to kill it.
I know. Well, you know what? When you get a good team of people together, age shouldn't matter, but it's just awesome that they are so young.
Yeah, they got their head on right. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you three for joining us. This was awesome. I'm so excited to see the game continue
Definitely
to grow.
got to get him on again.
Yeah,
'cause
down the
we already know.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait to see the game grow. Even though it, like you just said a moment ago, it's freaking great as is. You could tell me that the game's done. You're never doing another update, moving on to another game, and I'd go awesome. Like, so I'm so excited to see what's coming in the future. Thank you three for joining us as well. And like Stratus just said a moment ago, hopefully this isn't the last time we have you on either.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.